How to cover VI need to think about objections. So let's talk about objections. At the moment of recording this video right now, me and my team have closed multiple 7 figures of sales, okay, online and in person. And in sales, every single salesperson or every single business owner, okay, matter of fact, every single business owner watching this video right now, all come across objections. Objections are literally life. I wish life was as easy as being able to sell your product without objections. However, it's not. Okay, and if you want to be successful in sales, if you want to be successful with business, you have to learn and you have to get comfortable with handling objections. Objections are one of those things where you're never going to be able to get rid of it. However, there are a few things that you can, I guess, pre-frame in the beginning to make sure that the objections are nowhere near as bad. But in this video today, we are going to be covering how we can handle, or how you watching this video right now as a business owner or as a sales representative are going to be able to handle the I need to think about it objection. Now, the first thing you need to understand as a sales representative or as a business owner, when you figure or when you realize or when you receive an objection, is that all objections is a lack of clarity. Okay, whenever someone has an objection or whenever someone isn't sure on whether they want to go ahead with your service or with your program, the chances are they are lacking clarity. So as a salesperson, the sooner you're able to give your prospects the clarity, the sooner you're able to give them the belief, or you're able to break it down for them, break down that mental shift for them and actually give them that clarity that they're needed in order to move forward with your service, the easier it will be for you to collect the cash, because confused prospects do not buy. You cannot sell to someone who's confused. So the first thing you need to be focused on, or the first thing that you need to make a mental switch on in your head is, okay, this person that I'm speaking to right now, if they're actually interested in the service, however, they're giving me objections, is that they need clarity. We need to make this process, we need to break it down, we need to make it a lot more simpler for them. And when it comes down to handling objections, there are a few do's and don'ts. Okay, whenever we receive this objection, a few don'ts. Okay, one of the first don'ts when it comes down to I need to think about it objections is handle it aggressively. The way I always relate this is I relate it to a boxing fight. Okay, and I always love to relate objections to being in a boxing match or being in a boxing fight. Okay, whenever someone's in a boxing fight and they just hit someone really, really hard, the natural instinct that they have is to shell up. Okay, if someone's giving you an objection, their guard is all the way up. They're completely shelled up, okay? And if you try and handle it aggressively straight away, if you try and go off the bat, firing off, objection handles, saying this, that, and that, and this, okay, it's not going to get through because their guard is up. They don't want to listen to you because they know that the first instinct that you have as a sales representative or as a business owner is to handle it aggressively, okay? So the more aggressive you are, is the more tension you build. And when there's tension in a sales call, your prospect is going to be the least likely to want to move forward, okay? If you handle it with an aggressive tone or with an aggressive approach, okay, the prospect is as simple as they've completely shut off from the exact situation and all they're focused on, all they really want to do now is get off of that sales call. The second thing I see a lot of people doing is just simply not trying to handle it at all. Okay, the amount of people or the amount of sales calls I review and someone just doesn't handle the objection, they'll just leave it. They'll be like, oh, okay, no, that's completely fine. Just get back to me, when you thought about it. Don't get it twisted. It definitely does show indifference to your prospect. And it does show your prospect that at the end of the day, you're completely indifferent to the outcome. However, not handling the objection, okay, when you know as a sales representative that you're going to encounter objections all the time, is the fastest way to shoot your closing rate in the foot and make sure that you very rarely collect money because you're not handling objections. Like we said, objections are a main part of business, for a main part of life, okay? So if you, by not even attempting to handle it, by you just completely leaving it, completely, getting off a call, hoping and praying that, the prospect comes to the realization themselves and move forward, and you not actually putting them into the position, is another way on how you can actually shoot yourself in the foot and, put yourself in the worst position to be able to close the deal. And finally is get offended, okay? Especially after building relationship with prospects or building relationship with people who you're looking to do business with. It's very easy for some sales representatives to get offensive and get offended when they receive an objection. Okay, you're thinking, why are you objecting me? What's going on? Your thought process is that due to the relationship that you've built, there should be no reason why there's an objection, and people start to get frustrated. And if you get frustrated, your prospect will be able to feel that. What you need to see your sales calls is you are a mirror. okay? And whatever you mirror off to a prospect is what your prospect feels, okay? So if you're, offensive, if you're aggressive, and if you're not, you're super uptight and you're really trying to handle this objection, your prospect is going to feel that, okay? Whereas if you're calm, if you're collected, your prospect is going to feel that, and they're going to feel more reassured. They're going to feel the indifference. They're going to feel reassured, and they're going to be like, okay, listen, at the end of the day, this person is calm. This person's clearly been here before. Okay, and they're going to be in more of a cooperative move to want to move forward and actually do that piece of business with you. Another do is slow down. Okay, the worst thing that you can do when you get an objection is try and speed up. Okay, what a lot of people or what a lot of sales reps do is they'll increase they'll speed up the way they speak, or they'll speed up the way of the process, as they'll feel like they'll be able to handle the objection of speed. Okay, once you receive an objection, the number one focus you should have is slowing everything down. Because if someone's giving you an objection and they're lacking clarity, the last thing you want to do, or the last thing they want to be, is be sped up. Because if they're sped up, they'll simply leave the call, they'll simply throw more objections at you, and there will be no chance of actually closing the deal. Okay, so you need to be calm and collected. You need to grab a sip of the water. You need to calm down, and you need to analyze the situation professionally as a sales professional, and make sure you put yourself in the best position mentally to close that deal. Whenever someone gives you an objection, the number one protocol that I use and that I tell all my team to use and all the sales professionals that I train is feel, felt, found. Okay, your prospect needs to be felt. They need to understand your concern. They need to feel like you understand their concern, and they need to feel like you're ready to do whatever it takes to give them the clarity that they need to move forward. So whenever you receive the objection, you need to, agree, step back, and emphasize. If you're able to emphasize with someone who's given you an objection, you're going to make that prospect feel so much more comfortable. You're going to make them feel so much more cooperative to actually want to work with you and find a solution, rather than if you try and approach that objection aggressively. You need to step back, and the first thing that you need to ask your prospect once you receive and I need to think about an objection is stepping away from the price, stepping away from, all of the logistics, and, keeping the logistics out of it. Do you think this solution will help you achieve XYZ goal? Or do you think X solution is what you've been looking for this whole time to achieve Y result? This is especially boosted up if in the beginning of the sales call, you've been able to get loads of tie downs. Okay, especially when you're pitching the service, you've been able to get a ton of tie downs on why, what your services or what you're delivering to them is what they need. And you've actually been able to get them to say that initially on what they think is going to help them so much. Do you feel like this is what you need? Do you feel like this is what you need to bridge the gap to achieve XYZ solution? Okay, and in what way though? Okay, once they actually give you their reply on if they feel like this is what they need, you need to ask them why. You need to figure out their why they feel like this will help. Because if you do not have the why on why they think if this will work, they don't have the why. They need to be able to tell you, and they need to reiterate the why on why they think this will help, as this gives you all the ammo you need to be able to actually overturn that objection. Okay, you feel like this is what you need to help you bridge that gap to get to XYZ solution. Okay, and just tell me a little bit about why you think that's the case. Not only are they pitching back to you on why they should actually take action and why they don't need to think about it, but they're also reaffirming in their head all the pros and all the benefits and all the issues that they've been struggling with in the past that your solution is going to help them with. After we're able to get the why on why they feel like this is what they need to change their current state, and why it's actually so important for them to use this solution to achieve XYZ goal or solve XYZ problem, we need to secure commitment. After we're able to get the why on why they feel like the solution is what they need to achieve XYZ goal or solve the current stress that they're in, we need to secure commitment. This is where our only focus is creating a dynamic of teamwork. Once your prospect is able to feel like you're not just pitching at them and you're not selling at them, but you're working with them, and you're being a problem finder and a problem solver, alongside with, you stepping away from a problem initially, their guard is all the way low, and you guys are there together you're working at a solution to make sure that your prospect can win, and that also you, the business owner, or you as the sales professional, can win as well, and make sure that both parties are able to achieve the best result for both of you. After we've been able to get the why, we need to use language like, okay, numbers aside, okay, numbers and price aside, we can make the numbers work and we can lower that barrier to entry down for you to make sure that you can get the best solution possible. However, are you committed action? Are you committed today to taking action, okay, working together with us and lowering that barrier to entry down for you so that we can solve that why, that specific why on why they told you initially, on why price aside, they think that this product or this, solution that you've got for them is the exact thing that they need. Our only focus at this point is to get them to commit to change, okay? And the reason why they need to commit to change is all the reasons why they've told you in the beginning of the sales call, or all the reasons why, with all the information you've been able to get from your prospects on why the situation that they're in right now isn't what they want it to be, and why they've even jumped on this call with you in the first place, okay? They need to commit to change to become the person or the business owner, whether it's B2B or B2C. They need to commit to change to find that solution and solve that problem and become that person that deserves whatever it is that they're looking for, okay? And that's why the why is so important. Once we're able to figure out the why, we need to get them to be able to commit to change. They need to want to change the why, okay? And when you're able to frame that solution, you're able to frame that problem of, listen, at the end of the day, we can make this work, okay? We've, from this, 20 to 30 minute call we've had right now, okay, and price aside, I wholeheartedly believe that this is something we can make work for you. And you've, relayed back to me and why you think this works, okay? Are you committed today, if we can make the numbers work and if we can lower that barrier to entry down for you, are you committed today to making that change, taking action and making sure that we can help bridge that gap to get to XYZ situation, to get to their dream state? And while doing this, we need to emphasize on the fear of loss. Okay, human beings are naturally selfish, okay, but human beings would much rather save themselves from future pain than actually get themselves current pleasure. Okay, someone is going to be more likely to take action in order to save themselves from missing out on something or, any future pain in the future, rather than actually taking action to better their current state at the moment. So one of my favorite things to say here is, although it's scary taking action right now, and although it's a big commitment, okay, I completely understand, and I'm sure you can feel the fear, of parting away with a large amount of money right now. What will be scarier? Taking action right now and solving that solution, okay, and actually committing to change and, committing to solve that why on why you've even jumped this call in the first place, okay, or allowing us to step back from this call and allowing this specific situation you're in, allowing us to go another year in that exact same situation with no change, and allowing you to miss out on tons of money, miss out on tons of opportunity, wherever it is that you're actually selling, okay, what you're helping the prospect with, allowing your prospect or allowing you to miss out and, go another year in this exact same position. This is emphasizing the fear of loss. If you're able to emphasize on, at the end of the day, it's scary, taking action right now and moving forward with me, moving forward with this business decision and actually committing to change is scary. Okay. And honestly, that feeling of fear and that feeling of scare or, that feeling of fear that you've got right now is completely normal. I'd have it too. And every single other successful client that I've worked with, they've had that exact same feeling too. But the number one thing I, give to you, or the number one thing I bring to you is, although it's scarier now, okay, do you think you'll be in a better position if a year from now, you've gotten over that fear, you've gotten over that, initial hurdle, because nothing grows in the comfort zone, and you've actually been able to take action and solve XYZ solution, okay, or you go back into your comfort zone, you continue to do what you're doing right now, but you miss out and you continue to be in that exact same position with all of these, existing issues you've got and being so far away from that goal you've just told me you want to hit, okay? Will that be a lot scarier? Okay, and will that be a lot more effective, or will that be a lot more damaging to you or to you as a person or to you as your business than taking action today? By using language like this, you emphasize on the fear that they're going to have of missing out, and you emphasize on, the future them, the pain that they're going to be in. Okay, and you emphasize on how that pain is only going to get worse if they don't do anything today. However, committing to change, although it's scary in the beginning, okay, whenever they make change is normally a good thing. And, change is normally hard. However, whenever they look back on every good change or every change that they've made, they can, take into account that it's been scary at first, right? But it has always been for the best. Yes, it has. Okay, and that's the exact same situation that they're in right now before they commit to taking change and before they commit to taking action with you and your service. The biggest thing I emphasize on especially in this objection handling phase, is that the way you build relationship and the way you use your tone and the way you make them feel is the most important part. Because if you don't make them feel good, and if they can tell that, you're purposefully trying to just mentally manipulate them, their guard is still going to be up. Okay, but if you go into that in that, I guess that mental position that you're looking to help them, they're going to be able to feel that, and they're going to be so much more open to actually speaking to you. Okay, and then finally, what you want to do is you want to turn it into a silly question. Okay, we've got their why, we've got commitment to change, and we've built fear of loss. We've got all of these things, and we've got all of these reasons on why they're going to want to move forward with us, because we've tied down the whys. We've got tons of tied downs on why this is what they need. Are they committed to change? Okay, and if they don't change, what's going to happen? Do they think them not changing right now and them staying in their current position, do they think that will be good for them in the long run? Or do they feel like that will cause them more pain in the long run? All we want to do is we want to turn it into a silly question. Would they rather A, allow it to continue to hold them back, or B, take action, commit to change, and solve X, Y, Z? Okay. After you ask them a silly question on that, especially after you've built the fear of loss, or if they'd rather, allow it to continue to hold them back, okay, and, if they'd be happy with if a year from now they've made no changes and their exact same position, after you ask them what is, the best move to make, to take action, okay, and, step into that fear, make sure they step out their comfort zone as nothing, ever happens in the comfort zone, and actually move to take action, you've made it into a silly question. You've broke it down to the point where they have the mental courage, and you've built that relationship to their point where they're willing to take into account everything you've just said, and they're so much more easier to close now as they feel listened to and they feel heard. Once this occurs, the close becomes so much more simpler, as you've got rid of all their concerns. But the number one thing you want to focus on after this is making sure you tie it back down to the close. Okay, making sure you tie it back down to the logistics, making sure that they're ready, okay, and that you don't leave it to their hands again. After that silly question, you move straight forward into, continuing with what you were doing. Okay, you've made them feel felt. You've made them feel found. Okay, you've made them feel heard. Okay, now it's time to resume the sale. Okay, close the deal off again and make sure that you lower that barrier to entry and move forward in bringing them on as a successful client. If you're able to implement that 4 to 5 step process into your next sales call, your clients and your objections will be so much more easier for you to handle, as your clients will feel listened to. So give it a go. If you're interested in any more sales content like that, just give me a big subscribe. Okay, follow me on Instagram, and also book in a free sales audit call in the below, where we'll literally go into your whole business, audit your whole sales process, and see exactly how you can scale your sales for free. And I'll give you my free blueprint on how I've been able to automate sales for so many other business and get them to close deals like that.